families, there are a few untold secrets. But for our next guest, she says her family's secrets involve drugs, sex, deception, and double lives. Watch this.
Where's Tess?
Oh, I'm sure he's fine.
Tina Alexis Allen, an actress, playwright, and author, is known for roles in The Outsiders and Moving Mountains,
I wrote this story, fighting the DEP.
as well as her one-woman show, Secrets of a Holy Father.
Our first date? Walking the Stations of the Cross.
Which was inspired by her own father, a devout Catholic who she says was very tough.
As a kid, I can't tell you that I liked him very much because he wasn't very nice to my mom. It was complicated because the guy who wanted us to kneel and say rosary every night wasn't the same guy who was treating my mother poorly, and I couldn't consolidate that.
Tina grew up the youngest of 13 children in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
You know, there was a lot of love in the house. There was a lot of teasing. There was also a lot of pain. Definitely there was a pressure that existed in the house to be, you know, on one's toes, particularly when Dad was home.
Her father, John, now deceased, ran a successful travel agency that organized trips to the Vatican. He was even knighted by the Pope. But he also had a dark side, fueled by alcohol.
He probably drank most every day. He'd come home having drank and raise hell. You know, that's where it got ugly. It was usually post-drinking, and then he'd bring that rage home, and it would be very scary.
As Tina navigated her teenage years, she harbored a deep secret. She preferred dating women. But to her surprise, her dad knew.
We had dinner, and I was with the woman I was seeing at the time, and he, to my shock and amazement, knew that we were together. And I literally was shaking inside. No one in my family knew. Of all people, I thought my dad would be the scariest person to tell. And I can feel right now how I felt then, which was, what's gonna happen? Like, what are the repercussions of this gonna be? And I was really amazed that it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go.
Joining me now, Tina Alexis Allen, author of Hiding Out, a memoir of drugs, deception, and double lives, which I can fully recommend to you. I read it cover to cover, was completely engrossed. The writing was excellent. The story was incredibly compelling, although I'm sure painful at times to write. So let's just talk about a number of things. You start the book by saying, I want you to know I'm okay. I am well today.
Yeah.
Despite overcoming so much, including not feeling that you could come out with the fact that you were a lesbian.
Yeah.
And the fact that your dad, too, was leading this double life. And the fact that you were a victim of incest, you say.
Yes.
So let's pick, which one of those would you say you struggled the most to overcome?
I think the sexualizing as a young woman, as a young girl, actually, it started when I was 9. I think being sexualized at such a young age is so complicated when it involves adults, particularly. And then that, sort of went on from, brothers to my middle school teacher. So I sort of had both adult male, adult female abuse as a young girl. And
Two of your brothers, you say, sexually abused you.
Yes.
And then a teacher who was 27 and you were 11.
Yes.
Began a 3-year, quote, relationship with you.
Yeah.
That you write about in the book as it was consensual on your part, but now you see, of course,
absolutely.
it cannot be.
No, of course not. And when I became 26, 27, I started looking at 11-year-olds, and I just was like, I can't even imagine this situation. And I think that's when it hit me, when I became her age. I really got it. But look, I shut down. I was running fast away from my pain. There was a lot of it. I played basketball, and that was a great lifesaver. But the truth is, I was really shut down, and it took me into my probably early to mid-20s to start peeling the onion.
Figuring it out.
Yeah.
One of 13 children,
The youngest.
of 13 children, and a very, very, very Catholic family. Your dad is, one of, if not the main character in the book after you.
Yes.
Very Catholic, and he too was harboring this secret. you know, the fact that you were gay wasn't something to overcome, but for the fact that it was drilled into you that, you know, Catholicism is one thing and this is what's expected of you and other things are wrong.
Absolutely.
And then you find out your dad is also leading this double life.
Yeah, well, I was at dinner with him at 18 with my girlfriend, my secret girlfriend. Of course, I didn't want him to know anything. And he basically said, you know, he outed us. He said he knew. And then he proceeded to say, and I buried my lover in the war. He was referring to World War II before he met my mother. And he
said his name
was Omar.
So he made clear.
He made it very clear. And then he went on to say my godfather was his lover. My godfather obviously was in his life when I was born, and that he had a relationship with him. And also clergy, you know, he was very specific with people, specific names. So my father was not only obviously bisexual, I assume, because he had 13 kids, they had sex.
Right.
But clearly he, in my opinion, might have been a gay man had he not been born the time he was born. Regardless, he was living that life, and it really shocked me. To be exposed to my family and then to harbor this secret with him was big.
The relationship with him was complicated. He was verbally abusive, you allege in the book, could be physically abusive to some in the family at times, verbally to your mother, certainly.
Yes.
And you write about the anger you felt, anger at all he withheld from me and all that he didn't. And that part of the story, becoming her father's, quote, partner in crime, is one of the most riveting parts of the book. We're going to get into that next, as well as the moment Tina's mother finally discovered the truth about her daughter and husband. So you and your dad become partners in crime. Describe what that means.
Well, he drank a lot. I drank a lot, so there was that, and we did.
He kind of pushed it on you. He
Yeah.
wanted you to be his drinking buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. But we started going to gay clubs, underground clubs. He would come and meet me in Europe. As a travel agent, you know, he would send me on a lot of trips. I'd go with one of my girlfriends, and he'd come meet us in Athens and Rome. I went to Jordan with him, saw a lot of, you know, things that obviously my other siblings weren't part of, but it got kind of crazy. I
even did drugs with him in the club.
Yeah, poppers, kind of crazy. I know. I didn't have a dad before that, and it was kind of shocking because really what happened is I went from one day not having what I felt was a father who loved me to all of a sudden someone who adored me, and it was complicated. Because I wanted a dad.
It's like that Carly Simon song. Sometimes I wish that I never ever knew some of those secrets of yours. It's
Exactly.
like you were let in on the inner circle, but then there's a question about whether you really want to be there. And meantime, your mother, who by all accounts was a saint,
Yes.
is living oblivious to this. Yes, is that what you believe still?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine living with a human being that you're involved with for that long and not having a clue. But look, her hands were full. She had 2 hands and 13 kids, so God bless her. She did absolutely the best she could. And I'm sure, you know, things probably crossed her path. I can't imagine. But I think when you're that busy, it's like maybe just push it aside a bit.
We are Catholics. We deny. We live in denial and guilt.
Yes.
So that's part of the deal.
It's part of the doctrine.
It's taught from a very young age.
Yes, shame and guilt and, you know.
Those are not the best things about our religion.
No,
But that's
no.
the thing, because your dad was very close to the Vatican, and I don't want to give away the secrets of the book, but there's a big reveal at the end about just how close he was to the Catholic Church.
High connections at the Vatican.
And so of course, there was hypocrisy that wound up eating away at you too. When she ultimately found out about his double life, and yours, really. I mean,
yeah, I lied. I was living secrets and lies too. I've been lying to my mom since I was 11.
How did she handle it?
You know, she was pretty devastated. She ended up leaving him. To her credit, she needed time. They ended up back together, which is a pretty amazing thing that they worked through something. But she needed time. And the beautiful thing, what happened for my mom is she actually went to therapy. She got, you know, clear about a lot of things, took time for herself, which she had never had with 13 kids. So I admire her for that. But she was very devastated. She didn't necessarily approve of my lifestyle. I'm sure not his, but definitely that was hard.
And you got therapy and worked through a lot. You're clean and sober.
Yep.
You have a lifelong partner who is your soothing balm. You said to a lot of the wounds of childhood. Your sister's here as well.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for telling the story. I want to tell the audience we reached out to Tina's siblings. One sibling gave us this statement. On behalf of the overwhelming majority of Tina Alexis Allen's siblings, we wish to state that contrary to statements Tina's made, we do not support the book she's written, Hiding Out. We find that much of what Tina writes conflicts with the reality of our own growing up experiences as a family. We are saddened and disappointed about the inaccurate statements and misrepresentations. We do not wish to validate the book by discussing its content. Instead, we'll continue to live our lives based on the values our parents lovingly instilled in us: faith, love, compassion, honesty, and respect for each other. We have no further comment. In addition to the statement that we received from Tina's sibling, NBC News reached out directly to the two brothers and to the teacher that Tina accused of abuse in her book. We received no response from any of the parties involved. Thank you for sharing this story. And I want to tell the audience that everyone here is going home with a copy of the book, Hiding Out. Hiding Out.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.